You're lying in bed, eyes open in the dark, and you're replaying what you said at dinner 3 hours ago. The exact tone you used. That slight pause before they responded. You're rewinding it, playing it again, adjusting the words in your mind like you could somehow go back and change them. Or maybe you're in the shower right now, reconstructing an argument from 2 weeks ago, finally saying what you should have said, delivering the perfect line to someone who isn't even there. The water's running cold, but you're still going. And it's not just past conversations, either. You've had entire discussions with people in your head that haven't even happened yet. You've prepared responses for scenarios that don't exist. And afterwards, you feel exhausted, like you actually lived through these moments twice. If this sounds like you, I need you to know something. You're not overthinking. You're not broken. And you're definitely not the only person doing this. What you're experiencing has deep psychological roots, and once you understand what's really going on, it might completely change how you see yourself. So let me walk you through what's actually happening in your mind. First, here's something that might surprise you. Your brain doesn't really distinguish between remembering a conversation and actually having one. When you replay an interaction in your head, the same neural networks light up as when you first experienced it. Your amygdala, the part of your brain that handles emotion, can't tell the difference between a real threat and a remembered one. So when you're replaying that awkward moment from last week, you're not just remembering the discomfort. You're actually re-experiencing it. Your body tenses up. Your heart rate changes. You feel that heat in your face all over again. This is why it doesn't feel like you're just remembering something. It feels like you're right back there, living through it again. And there's a reason your mind keeps dragging you back to these moments. You're trying to gain control over something that already happened. Think about the conversations you replay most often. They're probably the ones where you felt caught off guard, right? Where you felt misunderstood or exposed. Where you weren't prepared. Your brain absolutely hates that feeling. It's wired to predict things, to prepare you, to protect you. So it takes you back to that moment and basically says, okay, let's figure out what we should have done differently. It's not trying to punish you. It's genuinely trying to make sure you're ready next time. The problem is, there is no next time for that specific moment. It's already over. But your mind doesn't care. It just keeps running drills on a stage that's already gone dark. And here's where it gets even more complicated. You're not just replaying what actually happened. You're replaying your interpretation of what the other person was thinking. That pause before they answered? You've decided it meant they were disappointed. That laugh. You've convinced yourself it was pity, not genuine amusement. You've taken a 5-second exchange and built an entire story about their inner reaction. You've basically become a narrator of their thoughts, and the story you're telling yourself is almost always worse than reality. You're writing fiction in your head and then feeling terrible about it. Psychologists call this mind reading, and you do it because at some point in your life, you learned that it was safer to assume the worst than to be blindsided by it. Now, let me tell you something you might not have considered. People who replay conversations like this are often deeply empathetic. You run these mental simulations because you genuinely care about how you're perceived, how others feel, how your words land. You're not indifferent. You're hyper-aware. You've probably spent years reading the room, adjusting your tone, watching for tiny shifts in facial expressions. And that skill, while absolutely exhausting, comes from a place of real emotional intelligence. You notice things most people completely miss. The problem is, you've turned that skill on yourself like a weapon. You're analyzing yourself with the same intensity you use to understand everyone else. And the standards you're holding yourself to are impossibly high. Here's what makes this even more interesting. The conversations you replay the most? They're tied directly to your identity. If you see yourself as a kind person, you'll replay every single moment where you might have seemed rude. If you see yourself as competent, you'll replay every mistake. If you see yourself as likable, you'll replay every awkward silence. So you're not really just replaying a conversation. You're defending who you believe you are. Your mind is essentially saying, that moment doesn't match the story I tell about myself, so I need to fix it, explain it, or somehow erase it. But you can't. So you just keep looping. And if you've been doing this for years, something else happens. Replaying conversations stops being just a habit. It becomes part of how you see yourself. You might even say things like, I'm just an overthinker, as if it's some permanent personality trait. But it's not. It's a learned response. Somewhere along the way, maybe in childhood, maybe in a past relationship, maybe at school, you learned that analyzing your words kept you safe. That if you could just figure out what went wrong, you could prevent it from happening again. And for a while, that probably worked. It helped you navigate complicated social situations. It helped you avoid conflict. But now, it's like you're still wearing full armor in a room where there's no danger. The protection has become the problem. Think of your mind like a smoke detector. It's supposed to go off when there's actually a fire, right? But if it's too sensitive, it goes off every time you burn toast. That's what's happening here. Your internal alarm system is so finely tuned that it treats normal social friction like a 5-alarm emergency. A small misunderstanding becomes a crisis. A moment of silence becomes rejection. And you keep running back to the scene, trying to put out a fire that was never really burning in the first place. But here's what I think your mind is actually trying to tell you underneath all of this. It's not saying you failed. It's saying you care deeply. It's not saying you're awkward. It's saying you're incredibly aware. And it's not saying you need to be perfect. It's saying you're afraid of being unseen, misunderstood, or left behind. And that's not a flaw. That's just being human. You replay conversations because you're trying to make sense of connection in a world that doesn't come with instructions. You're trying to translate the messy, non-verbal, intuitive experience of being around other people into something you can understand and control. But connection doesn't really work that way. It's not a performance you can rehearse until it's perfect. It's improvisational. It's supposed to be a little messy. And most of the time, the other person isn't even thinking about the moment you've been replaying in your head for 3 days straight. So if you're someone who lives half your life in these mental reruns, I want you to hear this. You're not doing it wrong. You're not too sensitive. You're not broken. You're just someone whose mind is trying, in the only way it knows how, to protect you from a pain you've probably felt before. And maybe the replaying will start to quiet down when you stop needing every conversation to be perfect. When you start trusting that you're enough, even in the moments that didn't go exactly the way you planned. You don't need to fix this part of yourself. You just need to understand it. And maybe, with a little time, you can give yourself the same grace you've been trying so desperately to earn from everyone else. You know what's interesting? Right now, thousands of people are watching this video, and most of them think they're the only one who does this. They think they're the only one replaying conversations at 2 a.m. The only one who can't let go of what they said 3 days ago. The only one who feels this deeply. But you're not alone in this. And if this video made you feel even a little bit less alone, even a little more understood, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Not for me, but because you deserve to keep hearing that you're not broken. That what you're experiencing makes sense. Leave a comment too, even if it's just a few words. Because when you share your experience, even anonymously, you're telling someone else scrolling through at 3 a.m. that they're not the only one either. Your words might be exactly what someone needs to read today. And if you know someone who replays conversations the way you do, someone who's too hard on themselves, someone who cares so much it hurts sometimes, share this with them. Not because they need to be fixed, but because they deserve to feel understood too. You being here, listening to this, trying to understand yourself better, that matters. And I'll be here making more videos like this, helping you make sense of the beautiful, complicated way your mind works. You're not overthinking. You're not too much. You're human. And that's more than enough.